Hello, and welcome to episode 86 of the Pos-cast. Rabbi Shmuel Posner, myself, Seth Hellman. Rabbi, how are we doing today?
We're good, Baruch Hashem. The weather is terrible.
Oh, it's awful.
It's terrible, right? Because it's raining a whole day.
It's
2 weeks ago,
rainy, it's cold.
it's cold, it's cloudy. But 2 weeks ago, we were talking about there's no water, there's a drought. Now there's no more drought, there's too much water. Like I went to Florida yesterday, and it was so hot. We'll get to that in a second. I didn't want
Day trip to Florida?
Yeah, well, we're not. It's a full subject. We're not getting there yet. I got to tell you about my trip last week to Muncie.
You went to
We
Muncie?
That was an overnight stay. We went for a wedding of our great nephew. That's Chani's sister's
Connie's sister's grandson.
Yeah.
You're a grunkle. That's what we call that.
What?
You're a grunkle, great uncle.
So the thing that because whenever I travel, I look for signs. Is the right thing to do, not right? Because it was a big schlep. I just come back on Sunday. On Monday, I came back from New York from the Kinnis, and on Tuesday, we drove to Muncie, and then Wednesday drove back. It's a lot of driving for 1 week. So should I go? I mean, of course we have to go. It's the right thing to do because it's our relative, and we're close to the family. Why? Of course we would go. It's only a drive. How can you not go? But still, like, oh man, it's 2 days. So somebody posted on the Shluchim chat in Boston, is anybody going to New Haven, to New York or to New Haven to bring something? It was very like vague. Like, what are you talking about? So I said, I messaged him. I said, what are you saying? It doesn't make any sense what you're saying. He said, oh, my son learns in yeshiva in New Haven, and he was home for Shabbos, and he left his tefillin in Boston. I said, yeah, sure, I'll take the, I said, let me check I had to check with Chani if you didn't mind stopping. And she said, yeah, no problem. We'll stop off in New Haven. And we brought him his tefillin. Then on the way back, there was another one of these cryptic messages. Anybody coming from New York or from Connecticut, like, I need a small package. So I said to the guy, like, okay, what's your deal? So he was in Stamford, and he left his towels and tefillin there. So I said, okay, sure, we'll pick it up. So it was tefillin on the way down, towels and tefillin on the way up. That was great. Then we and the guy was thanking me so much. Thank you. I didn't want to tell him, like, first of all, I've left my tefillin, towels and tefillin, like one time I left it, I think, in the oil. The whole frenzy to get it back. So, sometimes you do something, in the Sinai Scholars thing, they have like, it was actually about this man who, I'll give me an example, who owned Home Depot. He actually passed away like 2 weeks ago. And he was a very, very philanthropic person. One of these businesses that started out like a small thing, it became a whole big thing, as we know. So he was saying, like, you have to give back because, it makes you feel good. And then they bring an example where people are climbing Mount Everest, and when you're going up or going down, sometimes people get ill and they can't keep on going anymore. So, but if you're going to stop, like you may put your own life in danger, or if you're going up and it's like right near the summit, if you stop to help this guy, you're not going to get to the summit. You pay like tens of thousands of dollars, spend months practicing, and if you help this guy, you're not going to be able to fulfill your dream, which is to get to the summit. So one guy did that. He stopped and helped some person go down. And he was saying, how could I live with myself if I didn't help that person? And they bring these as examples of not doing a good, like doing a good deed selfishly. Like, how could I live with myself if I didn't do this? Instead of saying it was the right thing to do, he's saying I'm doing it because it made me feel better. which is not a bad thing. When somebody comes and wants to give you tzedakah, anybody wants to contribute to the Chabad house because it makes them feel good, we'll take your money. But the question is that really the way, I want to get the whole conversation. Is there actually something called an altruistic act? Ever do something completely it's like almost impossible to get away from yourself. Every time you're doing something, you feel you're getting something out of it. Whatever. But to make a statement, I had to do it because you say I did it. Like the guy said, I bought his house and film back, and he's thanking me 100 times. Like, it's not a big deal, I was on the way, I had to stop, and mix in the fact that you say what would have happened to me, I would have wanted you to do it anyway. But the bottom line is, our trip to Muncie was bracketed by 2 tefillin deliveries. That was nice. So now my trip to Florida. It wasn't a happy trip. I guess I'll let you know. It's not like, yay, I went to Florida. So I went for a funeral. That's why it's a one-day trip. There was nothing to do there. Just went and came back. And this is this person, I mentioned him in the Pos-cast a few weeks ago, Ephraim ben Leib, who actually passed away 2 days ago. So the funeral was yesterday in Florida. So I flew down there. I'll talk about him. Let's talk about him first. So he was a very special person. He came to Chabad later in his life. He was probably, I don't know exactly his age, probably at least in his 30s. And he had been into other stuff, these like guru type stuff and this kind of stuff. And he was like some kind of massage therapist. And he came here, and actually what happened was, he said, first time he came, he said, I spent all last night listening to Matisyahu's music. You know what Matisyahu is?
Yes, I know who Matisyahu is. What kind of a question
Have
is
you ever
that?
listened to his stuff?
Yeah.
So if you listen to his first album, it's Chassidus. Literally. And I once, at Emerson College...
Is that the album where he looks extremely Jewish? He's like a Hasidic... When he
was in his Hasidic phase.
Yeah.
Black hat, and he's coming straight out of yeshiva.
Right.
So that album he made, the first one, was complete Chassidus. I once, myself with Richard Weiss, he wrote down all the lyrics, and I gave a class explaining how the lyrics were Chassidus, Gemara Chassidus. How does it go with that? With the some chop them down, with that from the.
I haven't listened to a lot of his music.
From the forest itself come the handle for the axe. Chop them down, chop them down, chop them down, chop them down. You got to listen. Go look to it. I think it's called Stub or something. Live from Stub. I don't know. But look at that. You can find the lyrics. Maybe we'll do that next week. We'll do the lyrics of Matisyahu. And what it means, it's a Gemara, and the Alter brings it in Tanya, that the handle for the axe, from the forest itself comes the handle for the axe. Right? If you want to chop down a tree, what do you need? You need an axe. An axe is made of a metal head and a handle. What's the handle made out of? Wood. So from the forest itself comes the handle for the axe. Chop them down, chop them down. So, and the Alter Rebbe talks about it, that you find the resolution to your Mineu Bey. You change the bad attribute into something good, or use it for something good. Like any attribute could be used in a good way, right? Like you get angry at the Yetzer Hara, so you don't listen to it anymore, right? So anger is a bad thing, but you can use it in a good way. Anyway, why are we talking about this? So he said this guy Ephraim came and said, I was in those lyrics the whole night. A lot of people, but he got turned on to Yiddishkeit from that stage in his career. A lot of people got turned on to Yiddishkeit because here he was. It was a complete phenomenon. Black hat, beard, singing rap songs, which is not part of the Jewish culture, and not part of the white people's culture. And he was busting out this stuff, as good as anybody else. It was totally full of holy, content. So he said, I have to learn Chassidus. So that's how he came to me. Just telling you what kind of guy he is. I said, first of all, you listen to his music all night, like, well, It's crazy. And he was a very spiritual guy, and he became part of our Chabad house, our family, and all our children, the children that were here at that time, remember him. And then he traveled to Israel. He was a restless soul. You know what that means? That he was never calm in his. He's always looking for something else and trying something else. And went to Israel for a while. Eventually, he got married. He had a son. And literally a couple of years ago, he got this terrible disease, cancer, and passed away. So that's why I flew to. And in fact, 2 days ago, 3:30 in the morning, his wife called me. How do I know that? Because I woke up like a half an hour later, and I saw him, and I came downstairs or whatever, looked at my phone, and there was a missed call. It says, "Please call, Ephraim wants to talk to you." I'm like, and I knew that he was in a very serious stage at this time. So immediately I called him, and he couldn't really speak. It wasn't a conversation. I was speaking to him. And it's like, it's one of those times when you have like what people say, I didn't even have a chance to say goodbye to him, right? I wasn't going to say goodbye to him. It's like, oh, okay, this will be our last time talking. You don't say that. You always believe in Hashem. Till the last moment. God forbid you should do that. But you want to say something meaningful and powerful. And I said to him, I love you, and I thanked him for everything he had done for us together and all that kind of stuff. And reminded him when they used to go to Israel on birthright, so they would go Matzai Shabbos, after Shabbos, Saturday night, they go to Ben Yehuda Street, Machne Yehuda, whatever they call it. The big, where all the people gather on Saturday night, and it's a whole big...
Oh, the Shuk, yeah, Machne Yehuda, yeah.
Machne Yehuda, right. Go to Machne Yehuda and meet him there, and we'd find some little corner, place, sit down, buy something to eat or something like that, and schmooze. And I have like a vivid, when you talk to people and on a regular basis, you don't remember specific moments that you talk to them. But this I remember. I have a picture in mind of, because to me it was very, being in Israel, like huge. And I remember specifically meeting with him and sitting and talking to him. Yesterday, I forget, somebody said to me that like he had like an office on Newbury Street, and he had a book on his. So I went once. He said, "Come visit my thing." So I went there, and it was a massage place. He did it for therapeutic massage. So I went there, and on his desk there was a book from some kind of. It wasn't a Jewish book. It was some kind of guru type stuff. I don't remember doing this, but this is what the guy said, and I pushed the book off the table and I threw it onto the floor and said, "Ha, you're a Jew." And this guy said that that Ephraim had told him this. Whoops, you went. Ephraim told him that this shook him up, and like it had a major, which I said this many times. I don't remember saying this or doing this to him. I could see myself doing it, but I don't remember doing it. Which is, who cares? I'm not writing a biography of myself, an autobiography of all my the amazing moments of Posner. I'm not doing that. So it doesn't. Hashem has to keep that book. One day, we'll see what happens. Anyway, that was that. And he lived in Florida, and he had made part of the community, had an impact on a lot of people's lives, and that was it. That was it. That was that. Now of course, traveling nowadays, flying anywhere, every time I take a flight, it's a whole story. So I had a flight booked for 7:00, and the funeral was at 12:30. So the plane lands 3.5 hours, 10:30, which is enough time to get 2 hours is enough time. But then it started delaying. I'm like, oh my God! And it's 6:30 now, and it's pushed off to 8:00. And I'm thinking that this is not going to work. 8:45. 8:45 means that the plane lands at 11:30 or whatever. It just was ridiculous. It's impossible for me to get there on time. So I quickly jumped onto another airline, bought a ticket, and flew there. And again, I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy. I'm flying there. I have a 6:00 flight to come back. And I was like, And so the second flight was great because the middle of the plane was empty. There's people sitting in front and people sitting in the back. And my seat was somewhere in the back. But there was 10 seats, literally. in middle on both sides both sides of the aisle, they were empty. So I'm walking back. I'm like, and I'm walking back. And this is so still. I'm walking sitting back with all these people, all these empty seats. So I said to the flight attendant, "Is it okay to sit here?" And he said, "Yeah, I guess so. No problem, as long as I wasn't too far up in the expensive seats.
Mm.
God forbid you should sit there and then, like, it's empty anyway. Who cares? Anyway, but that's not the point. So I had a whole section empty to myself. It was great. It was fantastic. So then, when I get on the plane, who's sitting in the front section? Like the whatever they call it, first class, business class. John Badalingo. Do you know what that is? He's an
No.
assistant dean of dean of students at Boston University.
Oh, so he's completely irrelevant. Great. Good to know.
Well, actually, I've spoken about this on previous podcasts. I think he's a very, very good friend of the Jews, and during the whole
Okay, then I like him.
Okay, good. I'll let him know. So last year, I always knew him because I would see him around and have like 10-second, 5-second hi, how you doing, whatever. I had no use for him. But in the past year, with all the Mishagas going on campus, we really spent a lot of, he really helped out. He was very, very positive, very understanding, and was working with the Jewish community very strongly. So he's a good guy. So when I saw him, I said, "Oh, this is a sign from Hashem." But then I sat down and said, "He's a guy. Like, it's a sign from Hashem, but it's not enough." So I said, "Okay, I got to do the tefillin thing." So when I walked onto the plane, I was already scanning, and then the flight left at 7:20. So basically, everybody's sleeping by 8:00. Not me, of course. I'm learning Rambam and Chassidut. I learned a mimer. Then I said, "Okay, time for tefillin." And I stood up and I saw this one like the first behind me was 5 seats were empty, but the first one afterwards, I saw this guy sitting there, an older man. I said, "This guy looks Jewish." I go over to him and said to him, "You want to put on?" I said, "I'm not going to ask you, are you Jewish? Are you Jewish? That's on a plane. Are you Jewish? Are you Jewish?" I think I'm nuts. So I said, "I'm going to go straight with the tefillin." So I said, "Do you want to wrap tefillin?" And he said, "Like what?" And he didn't understand what I was saying. And I asked him again. And then I said to him, "You're Jewish?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, so you know what tefillin are?" He said, "Yeah." I don't know if he said he never put. I think he said he never put them on. I'm pretty sure he didn't know. He knew nothing about it. So I wanted to make sure he's really Jewish. I said, "Did you have a bar mitzvah?" He said, "Yeah. When I was in the military, in the Marines, when he was 21 years old, one time the rabbi came. This is going back probably, 60 years ago." He said the rabbi came by. He said, "Anybody didn't have bar mitzvah?" He gave me a bar mitzvah. I have no idea what that means. And his wife
Probably just had him read from the Torah or something. Like, I don't know what.
But obviously not no tefillin. So he put on tefillin, and he was very happy. He was very kind, very gentle. It was a great. And his wife says she knows the Chabad somewhere in Natick. He grew up in Brookline, and he was like almost like he thought it was like cute, like, oh, he's putting on in the plane. But so it was very. So then I said, "Boom! This is it. Hashem runs the world. Put on tefillin with this guy." And I sent you a picture in your email. Did you see it?
Yes, you did. You did.
I got to take a picture. I want to share it with my friends. So I want to think. I don't think he watches the Pos-cast yet.
I doubt it. Yeah.
There he is.
It's a great photo. Look at that.
Yeah, he was really happy. It was a great interaction. Baruch Hashem. So that was, and I said to him, I posted this I made a little post on Facebook that I was going to the funeral, and I posted this picture. This one is for Ephraim. It's in his merit, and that mitzvah should be for his merit. So,
man.
So those are my little travel things that went on. Yeah. So last week was traveling for a simcha. This week, traveling for a funeral. That's how life goes. So today is a very special day on the Jewish Chabad calendar because it's in 1826, the second Lubavitch Rebbe was freed from prison. Yep, once again.
Someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, did you know that today was a special day in Chabad?" And you're like, "All right, which Rebbe was freed from prison?"
It's not a joke.
What? It's the truth. You guys have so many holidays, and it's all the Rebbe was in prison and he was freed.
Only
It's not even a joke. It's just a
two
fact.
Rebbes are free from prison. The Alter Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe, and the Frierdiker Rebbe. Right? The previous Rebbe, other ones weren't in prison. The Tzemach Tzedek was in prison too, but it was never a big deal. Like house, they were upset at him, so they put him in house arrest. It's not so bad. Anyway, but so this imprisonment of the Mittler Rebbe is very different. Now, the Alter Rebbe we'll talk about next week because his that's how the Kislev has all these holidays, Chabad holidays. Then comes Hanukkah. There's also Chabad holiday. We'll talk about that later. So
2 weeks.
in 2 weeks, right? So the Alter Rebbe was in prison in 1796. And this is 1826. It's much later on, but on the calendar, this is the 10th of Kislev, and that's the 19th of Kislev. And his liberation never became as big as a holiday as the Alter Rebbe because a year later, on the 9th of Kislev, which was yesterday, he passed away.
Mm.
And it was also his birthday was the same as his passing, and that's a big deal to pass away and on the day you're born, like it shows like a totality of life. Like it starts and ends on the same day, so it's indicative of like the person has lived a full life. Every moment was figured out and was done in a good way. Doesn't mean that's the only time it can happen, but this is like an indication of that. But so that's why he didn't become a big holiday because the first anniversary of his freeing was the day after he passed away. Obviously, the Chassidim are not going to say, "Oh, let's party now." So that's why he didn't become a big thing. But the Mittler Rebbe also, when he was arrested, they allowed him on the like in today's Hayom Yom, the daily the book that the Rebbe wrote for every day, saying for each day. It talks about how he, on the way to prison, when they arrested him, they stopped twice along the way, and the Chassidim gathered together. And he taught them. He said a Maimer Chassidus. He taught Chassidus. So it wasn't like they put him into the black carriage of the high level prisoners and took him off into prison. He was like going with a whole entourage of Chassidim. It was like a whole big deal. And even while he's in prison, they allowed him. They said he needs to do this. He needs to do for his health. To keep his health, he needs to teach Chassidus. That was the Mittler was known to be intensely. Like I said, if you cut his veins, blood wouldn't come out. Chassidus would flow out. So that was like to show his whole essence was involved in Torah and specifically in Chassidus. So and in depth, his Chassidus is Tali Lowenthal. You know who he is. He's a guy in London. He's a Lubavitcher. He's a well-known guy. Did his PhD thesis on the Chassidus of the Mittler Rebbe. That's that's kind of depth you had there to be able to actually write a secular thesis on it. And it wasn't secular; it was on the Chassidus, but he got a PhD in whatever Judaic studies. So today's liberation, and that boy says a liberation of any Jew is like the concept of liberation of Geula applies to everybody. So it's a time for us to think about liberation. It's time for us to think about learning Torah more in depth, especially Chassidus. And she didn't have Mincha yet. I know when I was in here, it's for Mincha. No Tachlin today. You sent me this thing about rankings of the Pos-cast. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll see if I can pull that up actually and have that here. But yeah, so basically, since you're an old man and you don't understand how these things work, um, Spotify, which, as you know, the Pos-cast is on, um, does what they call Spotify Wrapped every single year, right? And so with the main portion of their platform, it's music, right? And so that's what they do it on. So it's like, you listened to music for this many minutes, and this was the artist that you listened to the most, and the song you listened to the most, and how many times, and they tell you like what individual day. So for me, the individual day that I listened to the most music, I listened for 377 minutes, and it was on May 31st because that was when I left Detroit. And so we drove for like 6 hours, 6.5 hours, because we stopped off in upstate New York. But so it has the stuff like that, and so it also has Spotify for creators, which you see in the bottom left is what I use to it's their like website to put the Pos-cast up. And so as you can see, the Pos-cast is in the top 10% of videos on Spotify.
On
So
what?
that means
Is
that
this your what you watch yourself personally?
no. This is so they do that the Spotify Wrapped for your individual account, and then for the creator account, because I it's under the same Spotify account, but it's two separate things. Creator account gives you a Wrapped for your podcast. So how many people were listening, how many people you were the top podcast for, this type of thing. And so one of the things that it gave us was that we are in the top 10% of videos on Spotify. So what I assume that means is that the podcast itself, a video podcast, is in the top 10%.
Of
What
all the people that are
10%
playing it?
of 10% of what is the question? So is
Yeah,
it top 10% is in, how many people we're getting to listen, how many videos we've created, how many followers we have? I have no idea. It just says top 10%, but we're gonna work with it. Top 10% is good.
it's cute. Yeah. So thank you all of you that pushed us to be the top 10% of something that we don't really know what it is, but
It's a great photo too, I might add.
but but you know what's fascinating is that people say this big thing like they're following me online and they're keeping track of my stuff and this and that and what I'm buying. I'm like, I don't care.
What
People.
I'm buying is crazy.
Well, so if I want to buy a pair of shoes and they start sending me shoe advertisements, okay, great.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't care. It doesn't bother. I don't. I know it doesn't bother me. But I think here
No,
you
it's honestly helpful a lot of the time.
what?
A lot of the time it's helpful.
Yeah,
You get
exactly.
really helpful ads.
Right. And you don't pay for it, so they're making money. What's my business? I don't care. I don't. You want to sell my information? You want to sell how many times?
Well, the thing that gets wild with it is there will be times where there won't be something where I text it or I Google search it. I'll be talking to someone about a product and all of a sudden I get an ad for it. And that one's a little bit like, yeah, because that means that they might be listening on your phone microphone and that's a whole,
You know what?
I've thought about this a lot actually because it sounds like a weird Shabbos issue because technically you're being recorded on Shabbos. Say you need Shabbos candles, right? And you're running out of Shabbos candles, and you happen to say, in your room where your phone is, you mention to your wife, and you say, hey, we need to go buy Shabbos candles, and all of a sudden after Shabbos, you're looking at your phone, and you have a Shabbos candle ad. Is that a problem? Is that
Yeah, it's
problematic?
fantastic. It's fantastic. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. Actually, on Chabad.org, I just know I didn't read. They said, "Is there what's is there a problem on Shabbos with Siri and Alexa? What's the a whole
Ooh.
halachic analysis?" I didn't read it, but that's analysis. So that's if you,
Well,
but no, but that's if you're specifically, if you say, let's say, you say, I want the lights to go on, and Alexa
hmm.
turns on the lights. Is that a problem?
I see. So to me, if you're doing it intentionally, that feels no different than turning on a light switch.
No. All I did was I spoke. I didn't do anything.
Mm. But the problem is that you can't just say I want the lights to turn on. You'd have to activate Siri by saying it,
I said,
right?
Siri,
So
please turn on the lights. Is
I
that
don't
the
know.
same?
It feels problematic to me.
I know. Is it the same as asking a non-Jew to do something?
Mm, I mean, no,
Right, because not a
because you're not
person.
asking a human.
Or if you say,
Siri's not a
or
human;
if
it's a
you say, I
computer.
wish the lights would go on in this room, and
Mm,
whatever electronic thing that makes it goes on. So what I think the idea over here is it's called a geirim. You're causing something to happen. Like for
right.
example, if you open a window because it's hot and there's a candle nearby, that's a direct. You didn't blow out the candle. You open the window. But then
Mm.
again, even a geirim, even a cause is when you do something. I don't know about speaking. Well, anyway, if anybody wants to know the answer, Chabad.org, look it up, and you'll see what the discussion is there. But anyway,
I wonder what the clap on. you probably don't know what this is. There used to be a light system. I doubt they advertise it anymore. I don't even know if the company exists anymore. But it was clap on, clap off, where you clap twice and your lights would turn on or clap, and
Yeah.
then, right?
That's the idea of like opening the window and letting the air blow in.
Okay, but it's all the same, right?
No,
You're
no, it's
causing it to
action. There's a
happen.
big difference. Action is different. Action is different.
But either way, you're taking an action. Your speech is an action. You're speaking to create
Okay,
the
okay.
lights
So
turning on and off.
very good, very good. So in Chassidus, it talks very much about this. That what the halach is that moving your lips is an action. Even, there's a difference
Yeah.
between speech. Hold on. There's a difference between speech and action, but speech is also called a minor action because you're moving your lips. So, for example, when you daven, you should definitely say the words. Actually, my guy on the plane, I said Shema with him. He didn't read Hebrew. I said, now read the English. He said, should I read it quiet? I said, no. I said, read it to yourself, but enunciate the words. He probably thought it was crazy. But that's because there's a big difference. When you daven, you don't look in the siddur and let your eyes do the reading. You, I should say, with your lips. When it comes to Shabbos, to say that speaking and causing something to happen to speech, that makes a malacha, I think that's a stretch. I don't think that works that way.
Okay, but if you think about it this way, if I told a Jew to turn on the lights on Shabbos,
No, no,
don't
no,
I
no,
have
no.
it?
That's a whole different story.
But
Because
what I'm saying is, if I tell a Jew to commit something commit an avera, I have a problem, right?
no, absolutely not. So that's the difference between a Jew and a non-Jew. If you tell a Jew to do it, he's responsible because he's responsible for himself.
Mm.
He can't. But when you do it for a non-Jew who's not responsible for Shabbos, why is he doing it? He's doing it for you. So there you have a problem. If you tell a non-Jew to do it for you, then it's a problem. You tell it to a Jew. Well, the fact of the matter is, if a Jew does a malach on Shabbos, you can't have any benefit for it on Shabbos anyway. But you don't. It's almost similar to a Jew and a non-Jew in that sense. Both of them are like that. But I think for our listeners, what we want to point out the fact that it's incredible as Mashiach is about to come. This idea that everything is recorded, like that Spotify can tell you what the percentage of time you spend listening to this or to that is incredible. Everything is accounted for. When 35 years ago, 20 years ago, you said, "Oh, everything is written. There's a Mishnah. Everything's written down in a book in heaven." Like, okay, it sounds like a very No, now it's very simple. Hashem had this technology, a long time ago, and now we just figured out how to do it. So the idea that every moment is recorded for, and everything you say has an effect, everything you do has an effect, is more tangible today than it ever was before. Like you would actually speak and make something happen. We've always had this issue of, in the Ten Commandments, he says, "Don't take my name in vain. Don't." So that's saying words. And what's the value of words? What effect do words have? And here we're talking about it has not just words can affect
Words have a lot of value. The
right.
whole Torah is words.
Of course, we know that because I can say, I always use this example. You meet somebody in the morning, and say, "Oh, hi, it's so nice to see you. I hope you have a great day." You lift the guy up in the heavens. Or if you say to him, you meet him and say, "Oh man, the one person I was hoping was to meet this morning was you." Like you just crushed the guy. So of course, words can lift you up and put you down. But in actual fact, it's not something tangible. It's not something you didn't make an act happen. And here, with speech alone, you can actually it's not just a small act because you're moving your lips. You're actually affecting the world by your speech. It's incredible. And that's what we always talk about in Chassidus: thought, speech, and action. Every one of them has an effect on the world. So this is that's the point. The point is be careful what you say, what you do, and every one more good deed, one more good word, one more good thought, boom, Mashiach will come. The day of redemption
Amen.
will turn into an era of redemption. Amen.
Amen. If you're listening on Spotify, I'm going to create a poll. Don't look at the Chabad article. Put in your opinion in the poll. It's going to be yes or no, whether or not you think that using Siri to turn on the lights is in Isser for Shabbos, and then go read the article, and then we'll all find out together.
Okay, that'll be great. And by the way,
Fantastic.
chabadboston.org/loud and proud. The site I think is still open. You can still contribute. chabadboston.org/loud and proud. Spell it out. Put your money in. Keep us going. We'll be not the top 10, the top 2%. of whatever it is. We don't know what it is, but whatever it is, we'll be there.
And with that, thank you so much for listening to the Pos-cast in general, and specifically the Pos-cast episode 86 with Rabbi Shmuel Posner. We will see you next week.